Hello everyone, welcome back to Your Knowledge Buddy, the channel where I break down everything you need to know about building your career and your life in the UK. Now, today's episode is a little different, and honestly, it's one I have been wanting to make it for a very long time. Did you know that there are almost 2 million people of Indian origin living in the UK right now? Almost 2 million of us. We are the single largest visible ethnic minority group in this entire country. And many of us, whether we have been here 2 years or 20 years, still have deep ties back home in India, right? Property, family, businesses, inheritance, money, children, and the list goes on. But here's the problem. When legal issues come up in India, and trust me, they do, most of us have no idea what to do. We are sitting here in the UK thousands of miles away, and suddenly we are dealing with a land dispute or a family property or a business partner who has gone quiet or worse. And the biggest mistake NRIs make? They either panic, they ignore it, and hope it goes away. And they rely on someone back home who may not have their best interests at heart. Well, not today. Today I have an incredible guest joining me. His name is Varun Singh, and he's the managing partner at Foresight Law Offices in India. With over 13 years of experience, Varun specializes in exactly the kind of cross-border legal issues that affect NRIs living abroad: property, family disputes, business, data protection, and so much more. This podcast is your wake-up call. Know your rights, know your options, and know that no matter where you are in the world, you can protect what is yours. So let's get into it. Hi Varun, welcome to Your Knowledge Buddy.
Thank you.
And if you don't mind, can you please introduce yourself to my audience, please?
Right. Hi everyone. I'm a practicing lawyer in Delhi, and I practice mostly at the Supreme Court of the High Court. I have a small boutique firm, and we are about 25 people. And we specialize in a lot of will, trust, and real estate related disputes. And I've had the good fortune of working extensively with some people with UK as well. So we thought that this would be a good idea to actually have this interaction and share some knowledge about what are the issues which I feel are relevant for NRIs which are living abroad but have a lot of issues which are pending in India.
Definitely. I think you have come to the right place and the right platform. I have many NRI friends and many NRIs who watch my videos. They are here in the UK and they deal with all the problems that we are going to talk about. Right. So today I have divided our podcast in 4 topics. So I'm going to start with topic 1, which is all about property.
Right.
So NRIs generally have some assets back in India. They have some properties.
Right.
So have you seen, say my friends or people who are watching this video, they have land, they have a flat, they have a family home, and they assume their property is safe back in India. So, but it's not always the case. So right. Can you just talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, well, actually the challenge lies is that more often than not, people who either inherit properties or have properties which, they've gotten in their life in India prior to moving away, they assume it to be safe because they feel that either they have trusted it in the hands of a person who they think would be keeping it safe, or even otherwise don't feel that there could be any threat with respect to it. But what we have noticed in the last maybe 10 to 12 years, that at least I have noticed this, is that people who don't necessarily have too much of ongoing transactions or too much of exact interaction with what is going on in India, many a times these properties can be under grave threat. And it could be a host of issues from, disputes which are pending between the families, which we, of course, is not something just germane to India, but even otherwise, that succession disputes, vis-a-vis forgery of documents, adverse possession, tenant acting funny with the landlord. Now, if you are in India, at least you still have a fighting chance of resolving this yourself. But if you are abroad, the challenge becomes even that much more.
Can I just ask you something more deeper here? Yeah. So say someone who got a property on their name, say back in Delhi, anywhere.
Yeah.
And now the property is on their name. They had given it to someone they trust maybe to look after the property. So have you seen can they steal the property even though it is on their name?
Yeah.
How does it happen?
So actually that's the thing. There have been a couple of instances and very famous ones where property being trusted to someone in India and the property registration is entirely in their name. But however, we've seen examples where somebody has forged, there was a famous case of a guy called Mr. Narula who had, for the sake of confidentiality, I'm not spelling out the entire name, but Mr. Narula had a property in Delhi, and he was the sole owner of it, and he had got it through his family. Now, it so happens that because he owned it from the year 2005 onwards, and the next visit that he made to India was only in 2020. He figured out from his property dealers in the year 2020 that the same property which he owned had been transferred in the name of a third party by virtue of a brother which he never had. And how it all transpired was that the sub-registrar at whom the property stood transferred from had entered a person showing himself to be Mr. Narula. Mr. Narula gifting the property in the name of the so-called brother, and that so-called brother then thereafter transferring the interest in the property, which was easily more than few million pounds, was transferred into somebody else's name, and then he was into a host of problems pertaining to that, and he had to fight a long legal battle.
So, as a lawyer, then, what advice do you have for NRIs facing such issue?
Well, I think it's to be broken down into like 3-4 parts. I think one, first and foremost, is that of course, like you guys maintain your digital records here, maintaining your clean physical digital records, updating your filing in terms of your the revenue taxes, ensuring that your property is properly protected, guarded around it. Like that famous movie Khosla Ko Ghosla.
Yeah.
Somebody who bought a property.
Correct.
It was not marketed well, and it was then ended up sold to a third party. And this is happening bang in middle of Delhi, bang in middle of Hyderabad, anywhere you name it. Like properties worth thousands of crores have exchanged hands. So maintaining good digital records, maintaining a specific power of attorney, maintaining, updating your revenue taxation. These are the few steps which you can ensure that at least you have the know-how of how the property is being kept, and ensure that it's like in a simple word, in a simple terms, आप अपनी body को भी दिखाने के लिए, to ensure that your body is also in good shape, you do require an annual checkup, right? That's what you need with your properties too. Like if that's the bare minimum you should take care to ensure that it's in good shape, that you do that inspection once a year.
Okay. Varun, have you seen any situation where, say, NRI has given their property to an agency and put that on rent? Do you also see giving through agency and not through, say, your relatives or friends? Even then, you have seen cases like that.
Yeah. So the test, that's a separate problem which happens, is that when you are renting it out, the renting, it becomes a challenge as well, is because although the agency is supposed to ensure that the normal checkups are done upfront in terms of police verification, or ensuring that the person doesn't have any antecedent, but what if that even that person who was not a criminal before does create some intent where he doesn't want to leave the property? Now, we feel as lawyers, I think there is a better terminology from a license point of view or from leasing point of view, that you don't lease your property, but you actually do a leave-in license. The technical difference is that in India, possession is everything. Possession is 95% of the game. Now, in order to avoid that the possession is not out of your hands, if you term it as a leave license agreement vis-a-vis a lease agreement, it always stays with you. So it's easy to evict someone from a leave license agreement.
Okay. So what legal advice do you have if someone is having that problem? In my audience is watching it, can they reach out to you as well and your team? Do you deal with all this on a daily basis maybe now?
Absolutely. And that's something, leave license or lease agreements are challenges which people have dealt with in India since time immemorial. And I know someone who, in fact, in a foreigner's case as well, that somebody inherited a property from their grandmother. But the grandmother's property, because she visited India after such a long period of time, only upon somebody else's death in the family, that she found out that the property that was to be inherited from her, from the grandmother, was sold through a forged document by the mother. Now, that became, and once the possession is gone, becomes a altogether different challenge. So, how to protect yourself in situations like that, because unfortunately in India, property disputes are so many that we deal with them quite
On
often.
a daily basis, yeah. Okay. And it doesn't matter if people are watching this video from UK, it can be also from US or Germany or any part of the world, right? So you deal with all the NRIs at the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you have an interest in India, and as long as you want to protect your interest back at home, we of course can assist you and help you with whatever that is required.
Great to know. Okay. So moving to the next question, which is about power of attorney. Not too many people know that there are two types of power of attorney, general power of attorney and special power of attorney.
Right.
So people use it wrongly. Can you explain the difference and how people should be using it today?
Yeah, well, that's another aspect which relates back to the trust aspect of, entrusting a property into somebody's name. If you have a specific power attorney which is limited to a specific usage and specific time period, then you can always renew it subject to your satisfaction that that property has been used for the purpose, or the person who has been authorized to take care of the property is doing their job properly. So having a specific power of attorney which is limited to the extent of usage of one property and for a specific timeline allows you to have a far more accurate and far more satisfactory interaction with the person who you've given this power of attorney, vis-a-vis a general power of attorney which could be sometimes not irrevocable, sometimes irrevocable, and sometimes so generic that instead of just using it for one property, if it's used for something else also, it can create you in some kind of a mess later on.
Okay, great. Thank you. So on this topic, what one advice do you have for people who are watching my video today, who have not visited India for some time, have not checked their property? What one advice will you give them?
Well, I think the most, like I mentioned in the beginning, that I think how you do your body checkup once a year, I think that's something which you need to do with your properties back at home as well. And if you're filing all your revenue taxes, and if you're ensuring that your property papers are clean, if you're just ensuring that your sub-registrar office documents are traced properly, because it can only be sold through original. I think the one advice is to do that checkup once a year.
Okay, great. Thank you. I hope you guys are listening to it. Now, moving to the next section. My next section is all about how to protect your Indian essence for your children.
Right.
So I know this topic is something we NRIs always think about it, but we don't talk openly about it because we all have our, say, money, property, investment back in India. So when you are no longer there, so then the problem comes. Right. So I'm going to ask most people in the UK, we all have a will sorted in the UK.
Yeah.
So the will which we have in the UK, will that work also for India?
Well, interestingly not, because the will which can have a direct interest over a property in India does necessarily have to be executed in India. So even if you have a will executed in UK, you will necessarily require a reciprocal will to be instituted in India. But I think if I was to answer this question, actually there is far more something fundamental in terms of the disputes which take place, and I can probably answer that later in some of your later questions. But I don't think will could be the only and the best way to resolve your future planning.
Okay, so what advice do you have for people then?
Well, I incidentally have the benefit of being part of one of the largest ongoing will dispute in India, where for confidentiality purposes I wouldn't name the person, but a retired Rajya Sabha member who lost his mental faculty in the later part of his life had an estate more than 40,000 crores in Indian money, more than what you hear. There is a famous dispute about Karishma Kapoor's husband having about dispute about 30,000 crores. This is worth more than 40,000 crores and has a registered will of his name. That will as on date has been not only questioned but has been doubted by 3 courts in India. We are of course with a family who's questioning that will, and the problem with the wills are that even if they are registered before a sub-registrar office, if you can create the jurisprudence in India is such that if you can create suspicion in the mind of court that this could have been executed in suspicious circumstances, then that will ought to be questioned and may not come through. So executing wills, according to us, may not be the best way to protect your asset.
Okay. So do you also then suggest then should you have a will made in India as well?
Yeah, well, so my suggestion would be actually, if you want to kind of, pass on your legacy to your family, I think the advice I would give is that to have a trust. I mean, especially if you have like sizable number of assets and you want to ensure that your family follows the same tradition or same values as you have kept. Executing a trust would be far more beneficial than executing a parallel will. Of course, nobody's stopping you from executing a parallel will in India if you wish to do it. The reason being threefold. One, like I mentioned, if you create a suspicion in the minds of the court, it will ought to be challenged, like I mentioned, in the case of a will. None of this is a challenge.
Correct.
So anyway, your execution is not a problem. Point number two, if tomorrow somebody was to go after your assets, if your property is part of the trust properties cannot be attached. The trust properties cannot be part of that proceedings in which somebody wants to go after. Point number three, automatically because of that, it kind of creates a benefit from taxing regime as well. You can have 100 CR property in India, but if that property is part of the trust, you're not liable to pay taxes either here or there.
Okay.
So it has all-round benefits if you ensure that it becomes part of a trust.
Okay, so you're saying make sure you go and create or register for private family trust. Right?
Absolutely.
And is there any website, like they have to log into the website, government portal, or is it just done through advocates?
It's actually advisable to do it through the advocates, because I think the idea of benefiting from your trust point of view or wanting to ensure that your same values are taken forward, because the trust can ensure that the property must be used for a particular purpose.
Okay.
So, for example, if you are a parent and you want your child to go back to India, to a particular town or residence where you grew up in, and you wanted the property to be used in a particular manner, that could be enforced by virtue of a trust. Okay. That's not possible in a will, because once you're gone, the property gets used by your...
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Varun. I just want to touch upon probate. How is probate... probate is already a nightmare, we know. Yeah. So if creating this private family trust, how does it help us?
Then if you create a private family trust, then probate doesn't come into play at all.
Okay.
Probate only comes into play if there is a will. Because if a will has to be proven by virtue of, for people at large, if it's uncontested, even a will in India is good enough for you to claim your rights. In any parallel proceedings or in any parallel action, let's say if you want to sell your property and you got a property through a will, you can sell it through a will if it's not contested. Then there is no question of probate. Probate comes into play only and only when you see a certain amount of threat. At least in the bigger cities, that probate is not necessary. It is only necessary if it is contested. Let's say if your sibling or any other legal heir has a challenge to the same property, then the probate comes into play. Whereas a trust actually is something which you can use or register prior to anyone's death. So it need not come into existence or need not come into a legal effect only upon death. So in that sense, it's beneficial. You have informed people at large that how do you want your property to be used.
Okay.
So you don't have to wait for anybody's death, and you don't have to wait for any court proceedings to show the entitlement for that property.
So once you have this family trust that you mentioned about, so it also protects you against the divorce. It also protects you, your child's divorce, everything. That is the best thing.
Absolutely.
So one key thing that I have learned personally, what you are suggesting to me, at least so that I understand, go ahead and create your private family trust. It's going to protect you against through anything, either it's divorce, through theft, or something else like the assets you talked about.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you, Varun. So now we are going to move to the next section of this podcast, which is about how to get your money back from someone if you have done a business back in India.
Yeah.
There are a lot of NRIs who deals with many businesses or entities back in India, but they get stuck somewhere.
Right.
So we're going to touch upon that, how to get that money, what is the minimum amount required, or what is the process all about.
Yeah.
So my first question regarding the next topic, it's about, there's something called as Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code in India. So can you explain what it is and how someone based in the UK can actually use it?
Yeah, well, actually, I had a very interesting scenario or case very recently where somebody had done some business with an Indian co-partner who was not, who he later on found out to be very nefarious in his ways of conducting business. So it was not very easy to recover money from that person. And not only that, the jurisdiction for the dispute was somewhere in Hong Kong. So he had it all ends tied up. And when he came up with a dispute to us and he said that what is the best way that can I use to get my money back? So we suggested that because this was done through a corporate entity, we suggested that the best way to get your money back, especially if your claim is more than 1 CR, is to this Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. The reason being is this, that in India, because of so many people who are defaulting in repaying money back, the Indian government thought of enacting this act wherein that if the amount against which is liable to be paid, if it's undisputed, and if you don't get the money back in less than 15 days, then you can invoke this kind of a case, and automatically within a period of a month or 2 months time, that company will go into the insolvency, and there would be an interim resolution professional who would be appointed to take charge of the company if the money is not paid within 30 to 40 days. So it's such a big threat for people to, if they don't pay back, that this normally becomes a very fast procedure, irrespective of whether your just dispute clause says that your jurisdiction is Hong Kong, China, or whichever country. Because the company is Indian, you can always invoke it in India and try and get your money back.
Okay, but Varun, you mentioned about 1 CR.
Yeah.
What if it's less than 1 CR? So most of my audience, I don't know if they're dealing with 1 CR, but say for people less than that or much lesser than that, let's talk about, say, I don't know, 50,000 rupees in Indian rupees.
Yeah.
What about those kind of money?
Well, actually, the challenge is, you're right. There should be a fast track mechanism for that as well, but there is something called Order 37 in India, where if the dispute amount is undisputed, and if you file a claim under Order 37, not a regular suit but an Order 37 suit, where you have to show that there was business transaction between either of the parties and the dispute remained unchallenged, you are entitled to get a summary decree, which the money can be given to you within 3 to 6 months. But the challenge is, like how in India, if you're up against someone who is, let's say, who is far more belligerent in the manner in which they deal with you and are not very happy to repay things back to you, the execution procedure is fairly stretched. Why I mentioned about insolvency is because insolvency has a greater threat of destroying the company altogether, which is why it's easier to finish those disputes vis-a-vis these Order 37 disputes.
Okay. I know personally many of my NRI friends here who are running businesses, and they have partners or suppliers back in India, and there are times when they have paid them extra money or advance, and of course there are digital transactions which can be shown, but they think it's going to take a lot of time to go through the whole process to recover that money. It's not worth their time. So is there any like a quick fix or something? They go to a portal, apply for it and done, or is it through an advocate, through a lawyer, they have to go through the whole process?
Well, the same procedure which I spoke about, Insolvency Code, has a step 1, has a step 2. So step 1 is obviously sending a demand notice. Step 2, in fact, which the courts have also, the Indian government has kind of ensured to get the money back, is that you have to necessarily register this default with the NSCL website. And what that does is that NSCL website indicates to all your creditors that this money is due and payable, and this could be a threat for that company for them to go into insolvency. So that step, actually a precursor to even filing the case, is also a very big threat, because of which companies like to settle, because they could be bad in paying their money back to you, in not swift enough. But the moment they know that their company is going to be under pump, their creditors who are, or doing transactions with them for a large amount, even if you're not a secured creditor, but the other secured creditors will go hard at that company as well, that if you are a company which is going under the pump, then nobody would like to touch you at all. So that is a very good step which the Insolvency Code has kind of initiated, to ensure that even if you go before filing a case, you can do this to get, tell everybody, people at large, that this person has such a huge debt lying against them, and therefore that case should be
Okay.
resolved at the
Okay.
earliest.
If you don't mind, can you just say the name of the website once again for my audience?
And it's the NSEL.
And
National, it's actually the NSEL is the intermediary is known for stock exchange, but they're the same website for recording a default as well. But you'll be better off doing this through a lawyer. So in the NSEL portal will be the one which will be helping you to put your Form 5A under the code. But this Form 5A or the NSL web code, I mean, it's advisable to do it through someone who knows what they're doing.
Correct. Okay. So guys, I'll be providing the links in the description. Like, I have learned it myself. I didn't know about it. And if you guys also struggling, make sure you go and check it out. And for any legal help, you know where to contact and whom to reach out, right? Okay. Thank you, Varun, so far. So we are going to move to the last section of this podcast, which is not a topic that I'm very fond to talk about, but it's quite sensitive, which is all about divorce and child custody and disputes around it. And I know many of the people, I'm part of a lot of communities, groups here in the UK, and on a daily basis, I read people are going through a lot of painful decisions of separating with their partners and talking about the custodies. So I just thought we'll talk about it here as well, and see and take your help or guidance in terms of people are going through it, how you can help through the cases that you have already dealing with your clients, with NRIs. So I'm going to give you a scenario here. So say if a couple splits and one of them files for a divorce, say in India, while the other files in the UK, which court wins, and does it matter who files first?
Well, you would be the one who files first. Obviously, has some first mover advantage. But let's imagine a case where so these scenarios play out in a situation where one part of the couple is forced to leave the country, like England, and and go back to India. Now, the real reason why the Indian decree holds water for Indian couples is because of the reason that you've been married under the Indian rituals, and if that is true, then your Indian laws can be applicable to you. And the Indian laws, if they are applicable to you, the divorces that are granted in terms of the Indian law will have more water in India vis-a-vis abroad. So a situation where a person who has no assets in India, nothing to do with India, does not want to come back to India, the challenge will not be as much vis-a-vis someone who has to necessarily come back. You could be divorced in UK, but if you're not divorced in India, then the sword is hanging on your neck when you come back to India, because we don't follow that reciprocity.
Okay.
That a foreign decree will automatically be binding in India.
Okay.
So therefore, your foreign decree of UK will also be of no good or no consequence if you are in India and you feel like that the divorce is granted in your name. It's not. If you get remarried here, your spouse can always start a case of bigamy in India.
Oh dear. Okay. I'm going to give you one scenario.
Yeah.
And tell me if it's different or not. So say, again, my NRI community who's watching these videos, there are few people who already got British passport.
Right.
And there are few people who are still on ILR, which is indefinite leave to remain in the UK, but they have not given up their Indian passport. But they're still NRIs because they are here. And the third type of people are here who are on a work permit or a different kind of
Right.
legal visa. They are NRIs, but they don't have a British passport. In that situation, how different is the law? They are living here, but say they don't have a passport, but they still have Indian passport, and they are going through divorce. So what is the difference being a British passport holder versus an Indian passport holder? Does it differ in terms of law?
So in India also we recognize various kinds of marriages. One is marriage under the Hindu Marriage Act. One is marriage under the Foreign Marriage Act as well.
Okay.
So if you are a foreigner married to an Indian, then you can still invoke the laws of our country.
Okay.
But if you both are UK citizens and you both are residing here, then maybe this invocation of the Indian law may not be as advisable
Okay.
to you.
Okay.
But if you are if you're an Indian passport holder, then you can invoke whatever laws you want to invoke in India.
Okay, great. And if you are a British passport holder, you gave away your Indian passport, but you have assets back in India.
Right.
And in that case as well, is it the same law?
So that's what I'm saying. If you are a UK passport holder and your spouse is also a UK passport holder, then the benefit of the Indian laws will not be as heavily in your favor as you would be if your spouse was in Indian passport holder.
Okay.
Then you can definitely, whoever the person whoever is the suffering party can always invoke the laws of India to, get some kind of lien over the asset in India as well.
Okay. And in the situation where both the partners say they are British passport holder.
Yeah.
But they just have some assets back in India, but they both are British passport holder now.
Yeah.
And if they have to file for a divorce, they have to do it in the UK because they are a British passport holder, not Indian passport holder, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And they should be contacting the Indian lawyers. And
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay. So, Varun, on that topic, I have to ask you another question as well. What I have seen, I have read, and I'm sure you are an expert, there are a lot of NRI divorces involved about hiding the money or assets, in terms of with your friends, your relatives, or someone else. So what is the advice do you have? How do you make sure those monies which are hidden get counted during those divorce things which happen?
Well, actually, if you ask me honestly, it's a bit of a goose chase only. That if the money is hidden, it's not something which can come out very easily. In fact, we see that in India, in Indian laws quite a bit. But at least the laws in India is such that, let's say if you're fighting for maintenance and if your properties are hidden or trapped in somebody else's name, the way to go about is that you can claim maintenance not only but the exact number of assets that there are available with the person, but also by showcasing the lifestyle that one enjoys. Let's say that there is no single asset in their person's name, and because they have a business, if they're of course is a resident of UK, there's no way of hiding their income here. In India, you can hide your income also. But even in those cases, if you're able to showcase the lifestyle is such that you're taking 5 trips abroad, you're driving a Porsche, and you're living in a rented house which is in one of the plush colonies in India, then on the basis of that alone you can claim a hefty amount of maintenance as well.
Okay.
But I think from my limited understanding, hiding assets for a person who is living in UK will anyway be quite a task. So maybe that sort of a challenge per se will not happen for a person who is, living here. It's more of a challenges which you face where you're fighting a battle against a person who's most of the businesses or is living in India.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Varun. So now I'm going to give you another scenario. I'm going to make it more complicated. Now I'm going to involve a child. We were talking about the spouse and the couple. Let's bring children into the picture because that's a real problem which is happening now in the society. So say one of the parent took away the children without the permission of the second partner and went back to India. So in that case, what is the legal advice do you have? What happens in that scenario?
Well, actually, you could always think of filing a case of abduction against spouses also. Let's say if you're the spouse where the child is taken away from your custody and who was in your custody, then you could always invoke a case of abduction as well. And the sooner you file, the better it is. But also at the same point in time, a person who's grieving and who's, let's say, a scenario where the child and the mother or the other spouse is forced to leave the country because of the difficult circumstances they were finding themselves in India, and despite not having the financial strength of what the other spouse may have, who is living in the foreign entity, can always invoke adoption or a procedure for guardianship in India as well. looking at the scenario that because of the financial strain that you faced in a foreign national, you were forced to come back to India, and hence you are seeking guidance and ensuring that the child. And in scenarios like this, the maximum weightage, at least in terms of Indian jurisprudence law, is that even if you have a foreign decree or an Indian decree, no matter, and they're conflicting views, child's importance or what is best interest of the child is something which the courts really look at as the maximum, holds maximum weightage compared to anything else.
Okay, they will be looking at who can take care of the child better
Yeah,
as compared
yeah.
to both of the partners.
Also, like for example,
Asset.
a child is studying in a particular country for a very long period of time, and has no other way to get that same kind of education quickly in the other. Then that also plays its part.
Important part.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Varun, on this topic. So, just going to summarize this one. So, from your experience that you have seen, what is the biggest mistake NRIs make in the cross-border divorces, which has costed them a lot?
Well, I think the most important aspect from where, I mean, I've had the benefit of working on some anti-suit injunctions as well, where somebody who lived in a particular foreign country but was unable to fight that dispute in that country and came back and fought their disputes from here, from India. The biggest lesson I would suggest, I mean, more often than not, you don't end up living in the same country after things go south, is for the fact that it is not easy for you to afford the same kind of lifestyle in that country. The best and the most important lesson is that if that is true, then you must not join those proceedings which have been initiated in the foreign country. Because if you show any reluctance, and if you show any kind of reason for which you are unable to join those proceedings, then for you to start parallel proceedings in India becomes far more easier, and you can get a decree to set aside of even a foreign decree a lot easily if you are able to showcase that you have resisted that jurisdiction or resisted that that country suits or cases.
Okay, great. Thank you, Varun, so far. So I believe we have kind of covered almost all the 4 topics that I had for today's podcast. Any closing statement from you? Like we covered property, we covered inheritance, we covered about the business, we covered about divorce, we covered about the child custody.
Right.
Is there any one message that you want to give to people who are watching today's podcast?
Well, I think my only key takeaway for anyone and everyone who's watching this is that, like I mentioned in the beginning, everybody has find ways to progress at different ways in different manners. The reason, I think, as an Indian lawyer who's fairly optimistic about the manner in which our country is progressing or is going to progress even further, the one thing that I could tell each one of anyone who's watching this is that your strong bonds and your strong affiliations with the country and the manner in which you are able to kind of improve your interaction with the country is only going to hold in good stem, no matter what challenges you face or new opportunities that you're looking at. So I think that is something which as Indian lawyers we anywhere seeing that there is a huge explosion of opportunities from England and India, where at both ends we're seeing a lot of England lawyers also come to India, Indian lawyers coming here because there's a dispute speak going on. The interaction is increasing. I think that same level of optimism, if there is there in the people as well about what India holds for them, then I think more often than not any of these problems that you're talking about could be resolved a lot more easily.
Okay, great. All right. On that note, thank you very much, Varun. You have already shared so many insights for my audience. I learned a lot, and I'm sure they are also learning a lot today through this podcast. Right. And anybody who would like to get in touch with Varun and his team, all the details are mentioned in my video description and also the pinned comment. And if you know anyone who is going through all the issues that we talked about today, make sure you forward this video to them and get in touch with the experts and let them help you today. And thank you for watching it. And thank you, Varun, for coming all the way from India to record this podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your precious time and asking these questions, which hopefully would be relevant for your clients.
Definitely, I can say so. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to get in touch with Varun and his team at Foresight Law Offices, all of his contact details are in the description below and pin comment. And if you are an NRI dealing with a legal issue in India or UK right now and you don't know where to start, please share this video with them. Send it to your family, your friends, WhatsApp group, because this kind of information can make a real difference. Also, don't forget to send your questions in the comment section below. I read every single one of them. And thank you for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, keep learning.